Hi, my name is Cienna Thompson, and I will be presenting on historic preservation, a dive into Sears modern homes. Historic preservation is a discipline that aims to preserve and protect the heritage of buildings and landscapes of historical significance. Every state across the United States has historic places recognized by the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and more than 90,000 properties have been recognized as significant by the National Register of Historic Places. This topic is important to me because I plan to pursue a master's degree in historic preservation because I believe there is not enough emphasis on preserving the built environment around us. In 1935, the National Survey of Historic Sites and Buildings, also called the Historic Site Survey, was authorized. The purpose of this was to identify historical properties through thematic studies. In 1966, the National Historic Preservation Act was developed, and 2 years later, in 1968, the Association for Preservation Technology was founded. The purpose of these two were to address a need for a national preservation policy within the United States and the need for the promotion of historic preservation technology and training. Since 1976, tax incentives have been available, and the purpose of these is to promote preservation through rehabilitation of income-producing historic properties. The Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation were published in 1977. Since 1977, there have been updates and additions to the standards for rehabilitation, and additionally, the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties was published to update the original 7 standards to 4 treatments. These are preservation, rehabilitation, restoration, and reconstruction. As of 2020, these are the top 7 challenges and issues faced in the field of historic preservation: a need for funding, a need to communicate the relevancy of preservation, pressures from new developments, the bureaucratic nature of some preservation processes, the need to educate the next generation of preservationists, a lack of diversity in the preservation movement, and risks posed by climate change. Now I'll move on to Sears modern homes, my chosen specific topic for this presentation. In the early 1900s, there was an influx of families moving from cities to more rural areas because city homes were becoming scarce due to immigration. Sears and Roebuck Company offered anything you could need for a home in a simple mail order catalog, as seen in the image on the right side of the screen. Prefabricated homes were not a new concept, but Sears and Roebuck were the most notable and quickly became the biggest catalog seller within the United States. From 1908 to 1940, they offered several styles of budget-conscious kit homes that offered the flexibility for homeowners to make any changes to the style to meet their needs. The pre-cut lumber materials and instructions were all shipped to the nearest train station to be picked up and later constructed by the family or someone they hired. In 1908, we saw the first specialty catalog issued for houses. It was called the Book of Modern Homes and Building Plans. It also featured 22 styles that ranged in price from $650 to $2,500. In 1911, the first mortgage loans were issued. They were typically 5 to 15 years at 6% interest. It is important to know that these loans were transferred to a credit committee and then were canceled in 1913, but were brought back in 1916. By 1920, Sears averaged nearly 125 units shipped per month. And in 1930, they had 350 different salespeople working in 48 sales offices. In 1933, they did cancel their mortgage financing. The last appearance of the Modern Homes Department in the general catalog was in 1937, and Sears ended their Modern Homes program in 1940 after selling more than 100,000 units, not including cabins, cottages, garages, or farm buildings. Ultimately, the Modern Homes Department ended because they had more money in their mortgage loans than in net profits and relied too heavily on financing as a marketing tool. It was also very difficult for them to get the materials needed to ship for these homes due to the Great Depression. There are no records of the total number of Sears modern homes that were sold or where they are located. Many of these houses have also not been identified or documented. By 1928, Sears had sold nearly 41,200 homes with an average of 3,000 per year. However, the lack of records makes it difficult to determine exactly how many were sold. Some researchers report between 70 and 75,000 being sold, while others report over 100,000. Sears Modern Homes also set the bar for modern-day prefabricated homes. Due to the versatility and personalization aspects of Sears, there is a need to have personalized, well-constructed, and fair-priced prefabricated homes today. Many feel that they are getting a home that looks exactly like every other house when they get a prefabricated house. Sears also impacted architecture as they were the start of what we now know as suburbia and helped establish and popularize the concept. The greenest building is one that's already built. Green buildings are a way of creating structures and using processes that are environmentally conscious and energy efficient. Historic preservation is also an inherently sustainable practice, as preservation can be compared to recycling. The original durable materials are being safeguarded and maintained when a building is preserved. Architecture and design also speak to us in ways that many don't realize, such as promoting our well-being, serving as inspiration, and being a source for memories. Historic preservation is a way to introduce changes that meet modern-day needs while maintaining the architectural integrity of the original building and era it was built. All states are required by the federal government to have a state historic preservation officer, and the Secretary for the Interior has the responsibility of approving any state programs that require this officer. There are roughly 39 historic preservation undergraduate and certification programs and roughly 55 graduate programs. In 2018, a student at the University of Oregon completed a dissertation proposing methods and practices to preserve the historic character of low-income communities and communities of color. This is a prime example of research being done to discuss and the key issues seen earlier in this presentation, being a lack of diversity. Old places are where our lives, memories, and stories began. They connect us to the past, anchor us to the present, and lead us into the future. These places inspire us to create a strong nation because they belong to all of us. Please contact me further for any questions, and thank you for listening.